Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, it's Adam here. I'm in my office once again just because I want to do a quick video talking about a couple of recent news, and I say that in quotation, updates that I thought I needed to take a second to kind of, just calm everybody down here. So two things happened. I've seen a bunch of clickbait videos out there being like, and so I'm just like, no. Let's calm it down. Let's actually talk about this. The first news story, again, I say that in quotations, is Sega totally leaks that a whole bunch of new games are coming. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then the other one was that Sony says you don't own physical discs anymore. Again, we'll talk about that one as well. So let's start with the Sega thing, because, near and dear to my heart, Sega. So it is true that not that long ago at the Game Awards, they did announce, this new era, new energy thing, and they announced a bunch of new games, Crazy Taxi, Shinobi, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, and a new Direct Grind Radio, which is awesome. I was shocked. I even did a video about it at the time. Then all of a sudden, there's leaks and rumors. Like, there's a whole bunch of new games coming. Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy awesome. So I kept looking into it, because I'm like, where would this have come from? What is the source on this? And everywhere I eventually narrowed it down to was a couple of Japanese patents. Specifically, and I've got my computer monitor here, we've got Altered Beast, Eternal Champions, another Jet Set Radio, and Kid Chameleon. Oh man, all those games must be confirmed. No. Anyone who thinks this doesn't really know how trademark law works, and I don't claim to be an expert at it, but here's all it is. A trademark, that's all that happened actually. Sega just filed for trademarks for those titles in Japan only. Now what does that mean? In actual tangible terms, it's a big lot of nothing. Basically, companies file trademarks all the time because they have to. They have to refresh the name of things like I'm wearing a Godzilla shirt, right? Toho has to repeatedly refresh the trademark on the name Godzilla, and they have to do it in different territories so that they retain the ownership of the name. That doesn't necessarily mean they intend to do anything with it anytime soon, although you should go see Godzilla -1, and after the success of that movie, they probably will do more soon. And I know there's the upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong. But in the case of Altered Beast, Eternal Champions, Jet Set Radio, which incidentally we do know a Jet Grind Radio, granted they had two different names for a reason, as well as Kid Chameleon, they may be working on something at some point, but the whole point of it is just to retain ownership of the name. That's it. Like, they'll always own the IP. That's not in danger. It's losing the name that's the problem. This happens all the time in pop culture stuff. For some reason, the first one that comes to my mind as an example is like Transformers toys. There was a whole bunch of characters on the original show that had specific names that they could not use eventually. Like, actually, Hot Rod, it was like infamously becomes the Autobot leader eventually as Rodimus Prime. The name was not refreshed, and thus it couldn't be used eventually. That happens with a whole bunch of things, and a lot of the times they just kind of forget, and stuff falls through the cracks. This applies to video game titles as well. So a lot of the time, the trademarks are really just down to like making sure you hold on to the rights in case you intend to do anything with it. It doesn't mean there's actually development in those areas. Years ago, I remember when Sega lapsed on the Shenmue trademark, and then it expired. Nobody picked it up. They eventually re-picked it up, and they didn't do anything with it until after the whole Shenmue 3 thing, which they had nothing to do with. It's, like I said, it's just about refreshing and holding the rights to the name. That's it. It is not impossible, given their new era, new energy thing, that there will be a new Altered Beast, a new Eternal Champions, a new Kid Chameleon. They just want to hang on to the name. That's really all this is. This is a big nothing burger, to be totally honest with you. So we'll see. Yeah, it is possible that those games will exist in the pipeline at some point, but I really, anytime you hear somebody say, oh, they filed for a trademark, don't put a whole lot of stock into that. It does not actually mean anything other than they just decided they didn't want to lose the rights to the name. That's it. And if you need a tangible example from like movies and stuff, you can look at things like the Fantastic Four movies that Fox kept making, where they had the rights and they would have lapsed if they didn't technically make a movie, so they kept making really bad movies and held on to the name. That doesn't mean, in that case, they actually produced something and it was terrible. In this case, all they have to do is hold on to the name. And this only applies to Japan, by the way. They haven't registered within any other country yet, if they even do. But Sega's a Japanese company. They care about Japan first, which makes sense. So this isn't that big of a deal. Now, the other one that got more traction was a big story here, and I'm going to pull it up again, about Sony claiming they updated their terms of service, particularly in the EU and Australia, and that has a new quote. New in quotations, by the way, literally a quotation. Resale. You must not resell either disc-based games or digital games unless expressly authorized by us, and if publisher is another company, additionally by the publisher. So that's the resale quote that everybody's freaking out about. Now, this particularly showed up, and I'll put the link in the description if anybody wants to see it, software usage terms within the PlayStation website, specifically as it refers to parts of Europe and Australia. So people are like, oh man, Sony's taking away the right for us to own discs and sell discs. No. And I am the biggest physical media proponent out there. I've made tons of videos about how much I consider digital content not property. So a lot of people, especially, to be fair, there's been a lot of paranoia around Sony lately because they've done a lot of really bad anti-consumer things with digital content lately, which I did do videos on. This isn't that. This is actually all to do about nothing as well. So the reason, first of all, we know that is this isn't new. This has actually been present in, at least in Sony's case, they have had this available since 2014. And I'll read you the exact quote on that. Posted March 31st, 2014, from the Sony PlayStation website, Terms of Service. You must not resell either disc-based software or software downloads unless expressly authorized by us, and if the publisher is another company, additionally by the publisher. Same quote. But it didn't do anything. You know why this doesn't do anything? This is basically a legalese thing. And this has actually existed since like the 1970s. So technically, when you buy a physical edition of a game, you aren't actually buying the license to the game. At least you're buying the right to use it. But you're also physically buying the delivery mechanism, whether it's the cartridge, the disc, whatever it is. And that is what you're allowed to sell and resell. You can't actually resell the license exactly because you don't really own that to begin with. Digital is where they control that ecosystem, so you have absolutely no rights whatsoever. But in the case of physical edition, it's always been there. You can actually go look up, grab some old games, look around, typically in the user manual somewhere. Sometimes it's blasted more prominently somewhere on the box, that you don't actually have the right to resell it. But they're not talking about the physical plastic. They can't do anything about that. What they can do something about is the license, in theory. It's just legalese to make sure that their IP is nothing problematic. I'll actually give you an example. Sonic 2, what does it say right there on the front? Not for resale. Because you're not supposed to be able to resell this. Now, to be fair to this particular version, this was the bundled-in version. What they were essentially trying to say with this is that stores could not sell this on its own. It had to be built in with the console. Now, that's a little different, and this is kind of an unfair example. But the point is, this kind of thing has always existed. It's just a legalese thing. I'll give you an example of legalese where something is illegal and they found another way to make it legal, and this is dumb. In the United States, did you know that dashboard cameras are actually illegal? Bet you didn't, because there's a good chance you even have one. So it's illegal to film people without their consent within certain contexts in public, right? Makes sense. So a dashboard camera would violate that rule all the time. So they decided it was illegal. However, a very creative lawyer basically said, well, if I have it in my car, I'm not filming other people. I'm filming my property, which is the windshield. That made it legal. You just can't help what happens to exist outside the windshield. This is the kind of stupid red tape stuff that must exist in some context. Now, granted, this is more of a European thing, but this is again, it's a nothing. They're not going to firmware update the system so that your discs stop working and all that sort of thing, like Microsoft had once proposed to do. In fact, we even have a quote. I'll show it to you. This is from Shuhei Yoshida, guy who runs PlayStation, who says, or at least he did, if you are concerned about our new European terms of service. And this was actually written in 2013, back when he was running stuff. If you are concerned about our new European terms of service, we confirm that you are able to sell and share your disc PS4 products, including in EU. Nothing's changed. This is just legalese stuff they have to update every once in a while just to protect their assets. Much like Sega doing the same thing to update their trademarks, they're just protecting assets. So I've seen these two stories floating around about people freaking out because it makes good clickbaity YouTube videos. I'm not offering you clickbait. I'm offering you some cold reality that in one case will make you feel better about the PlayStation stuff, and in one case maybe will bum you out a little bit about the Sega stuff, but it's just kind of stop buying into rumors, do your homework. I know I'm a YouTuber, but don't get all your news from YouTubers who have a motivation a purpose, a reason to clickbait you into watching and doing some sensationalism. That's why I never do that. I'm just like, no, like let's keep it real here. You know, check these sources, look into this, and drag it down to the original point. Be like, where did this all come from? And you'll usually find it's not that big of a deal. Anybody who tells you like, oh, they've got the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever, don't take that seriously. Stuff like that. So again, just to recap very quickly, the Sega thing, that's cool. They care enough to keep the names. Doesn't necessarily mean anything's in development. It could be. That could actually happen. I'm not saying it won't. It's just that that's this specific situation. That's not what it means. And in the case of Sony, they're not taking away your discs. They're not stopping you from selling your discs. You absolutely have the right to continue to do that. There's always been a rule, quote unquote, that you can't resell physical edition games because you technically can't really sell the license, but you absolutely can still sell the physical plastic that the license is contained in. Much again like the whole like dashboard cam logic. One is illegal, so there's a different rule to override it and make it legal. Stupidity. It's what happens with red tape and bureaucracy. Anyway, so that'll do it. Hopefully you guys found this informative. I'll put a link in the description to the Sony's original page on this, which again is, you know, you can read it if you want, but like it's actually a lot of nothing. Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully you guys, again, enjoyed this. If you could do me a favor, please like the video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon. Really appreciate the support over there. Spreadshirt, if you want to buy merch or whatever, and of course my travel channel, which I appreciate checking out. I've got some cool videos over there, and thank you very much for watching. I will see you all later.